Hey night owls, you're about to uncover something that'll shatter a common misconception. Sailors in the age of sail didn't just hold it or use some fancy shipboard plumbing. No, the truth is wilder. Picture this. You're on a creaking wooden ship in 1750, waves slamming the hull, and your only bathroom is a rickety plank jutting over the ocean. One wrong move and you're fish food. That's right, the ship's bow, called the head, was where sailors went balancing over crashing waves. And get this, some believed peeing off the bow could ward off storms, like a bizarre offering to the sea gods. Hit that like button if you're ready for your mind to be blown, and subscribe, because things are about to get wild. Oh, and drop your city and local time in the comments. Where are you listening from? Comment below if this blows your mind, and tell me what's the craziest history fact you know. Let's set the scene. You're a sailor boot slick with salt water, the wind howling like it's got a personal grudge. The ship's bow is your destination, a narrow plank called the head, where you've got to handle your business while the ocean roars below. It's not just inconvenient, it's terrifying. The head was a simple set-up holes or planks at the ship's front, using the sea as a natural flush. Sounds practical, right? Except in a storm, you're swaying like a drunk tightrope walker, praying you don't slip. And that storm-warding superstition, sailors swore by it. They'd aim their stream into the wind, muttering half-remembered prayers, convinced it kept the skies clear. You're standing there, wind stinging your face, wondering if this ritual actually works, or if it's just desperate nonsense. Now here's where it gets juicy. Not everyone used the head the same way. Officers sometimes had private spots, more on that later. But you, a regular sailor, are out here risking your life for a bathroom break. The sensory hit is unreal. The salty spray soaks your clothes. The ship's timbers groan, and the horizon tilts like a fever dream. You can't help but wonder, did captains know of better setups and keep them secret to toughen the crew? It's the kind of question that makes you squint suspiciously at the officer's cabin. Historians don't have hard proof, but the idea lingers like damp rot. Why else would they let you dangle over the abyss when a bucket below deck could have worked? Let's talk community, my sleepless scholars. You're not alone in this fascination. Picture explaining this to your friends. Yo, sailors used to pee off the ship to stop storms. They'd lose it. It's the kind of fact you screenshot and send to the group chat, right? And here's a, did you know, for you, the term head for bathroom stuck around in naval lingo because of this exact setup. Mind-blowing, right? But wait, if you think balancing on a plank is unhinged, just wait till you hear what happened when storms hit. It's a whole new level of chaos. Now let's ease into this journey. You're swaying with the ship, the rhythm of the waves starting to feel familiar. The head wasn't just a place, it was a test. Every trip out there was a gamble with the sea. And yet you did it day after day, because that's life on the ship. Imagine the stories you'd tell if you made it home. I survived the headmate. It's almost heroic in a gross way. Here's a quotable for you. The sea doesn't care about your dignity, it just wants you to survive. So what's it like out there clinging to that plank? Close your eyes for a second. Feel the wind, hear the waves. You're in it now. This is just the start, history nerds. We're diving deep into a world where every bathroom break was an adventure. And speaking of adventures, here's another. Did you know some sailors carved symbols into the head's planks for luck, like a primitive graffiti tag? Wild, right? But here's what they don't teach you in school. Those symbols might have been a quiet rebellion, a way to claim space on a ship that owned you. Makes you wonder what else they hid from the logbooks. For now, grab your coziest blanket, maybe cue up some rain sounds, and get ready to see history in a way that'll totally rewire how you think about this topic. But don't drift off. Yet things are about to get even weirder. Imagine you're out there at night, the stars above, the sea below, and something creaks behind you. Is it the ship? Or something else? Here's a line to share. Sailors didn't just fight the sea, they fought to stay alive on a plank. And if that's not enough to keep you hooked, just wait till you hear about the rats. Yeah, rats. They're coming up next, and it's as gross as it sounds. So tell me in the comments, would you risk the head or hold it till port? Let's keep this vibe going. My history crew, ready for more? You're back on the ship, the salty wind still biting your cheeks, and you're headed to the head again, that precarious plank at the bow, where you balance between dignity and disaster. Last time we talked about how sailors like you use this spot, clinging to superstitions about warding off storms. But now let's crank up the stakes. The head wasn't just a bathroom, it was a death trap. One wrong step and you're plunging into the icy sea. In the 1700s, that plank was your only option, a slick creaking board jutting over the waves. And here's the kicker, rats loved it. Yep, those scurrying pests nested in the bow's nooks, startling you mid-relief with their beady eyes and sharp claws. You're squatting there, heart pounding, praying one doesn't dart across your boots. Picture it. The ship sways, the plank groans under your weight, and the ocean spray chills your skin like 1,000 tiny needles. It's not just the cold, you're gripping the ropes knowing a rogue wave could end you. Historians still argue whether accidents at the head were underreported to save the ship's reputation. A sailor lost at sea sounds better than fell off the toilet right. But you can't help wondering, were some of those falls deliberate? A shove in the dark, a score settled. It's the kind of mystery that makes you glance over your shoulder even now as the ship's timbers creak in the night. Let's lean into that vibe, my history nerds. You're out there, the sea roaring below, and you're not just fighting gravity, you're dodging rats. Here's a, did you know to screenshot those rats weren't just gross? They chewed through ropes, making the head even riskier. Imagine explaining this to your friends. Yo sailors had to dodge rats while pooping over the ocean. They'd be shook, and here's a quotable for your group chat. The head wasn't a bathroom, it was a battlefield. It's the kind of fact that makes you want to hit that share button right. So what's it like out there with the rats and the waves? Close your eyes, feel the plank wobble, hear the rodents skitter. You're living it. Now let's talk about that near conspiracy angle. The head was dangerous, sure, but what if those accidents weren't always accidents? Mutinies were real, and grudges festered below deck. A push at the wrong moment, and who's to say what happened? No witnesses, just the sea. It's not like they had shipboard CSI. Here's another. Did you know some sailors tied themselves to the head with ropes to stay safe, but even those could snap? Makes you wonder if someone ever helped a rope break. Historians don't have proof, but the whispers linger like the damp smell of the hold. Speaking of smells, let's bring it back to the sensory hit. You're crouched on that plank, the sea's roar drowning out your thoughts, and a rat's tail brushes your ankle. Your stomach lurches. The air's thick with salt and something fouler. Maybe the last guy didn't aim well. It's a moment that sticks with you, the kind you'd never forget if you survived the voyage. And here's a modern parallel to keep it relatable. Imagine trying to use a porta potty on a roller coaster while someone's pet rat runs loose. That's the energy. Laughable now, but back then pure terror. Let's keep the community vibe strong, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew unraveling history's weirdest corners. If you thought the storm warding pee ritual was wild, this rat-infested plank takes it to another level. Here's a line to share. Sailors didn't just risk the sea. They risked rats on a death plank. And if that's not enough to keep you hooked, just wait till you hear about the buckets. Oh yeah, things are about to get even messier. Picture this, you're below deck, and your only option is a sloshing tub. Gross. Right, it's coming up next. But don't drift off yet, history crew. You're still out here, the stars glinting above the ship, rocking like a cradle. The head's dangers are sinking in, and you're starting to get why sailors were so superstitious. Every trip to that plank was a gamble, a story you'd tell for years if you made it home. Here's another. Did you know some sailors carved their initials into the head's planks like a defiant "I was here"? It's almost poetic in a gritty way. So tell me in the comments, would you face the rats or beg for a bucket? Let's keep this journey going. Ready for the next wave? You're still swaying with the ship, the memory of that rat-infested plank at the head lingering like a bad dream. But now let's pull you below deck, where the air's thick and the stakes are just as high. Forget the open sea for a moment. You're in the dim, humid belly of the ship, where sailors like you relied on necessary tubs for hygiene. These weren't fancy toilets. They were buckets sloshing with waste shared by dozens of men. In the 1700s, these tubs were the grim reality for most of the crew, especially when storms made the head too dangerous. And here's the wild part. Some sailors carved intricate designs into their buckets, believing it brought luck or marked their turf. You're staring at this bucket, its crude carvings glowing faintly in the lantern light, wondering who thought this was a good idea. The sensory hit is brutal. The sour stench of the tub burns your nose, mixing with the damp rot of the ship's timbers. You're crouched in a corner, the deck slick under your boots, trying not to gag as the ship rocks and the bucket sloshes. It's not just gross, it's a nightmare. Picture sharing a single porta potty with 100 co-workers, no cleaning crew, no air freshener. That's the vibe. And yet you've got no choice. This is life at sea. But here's where it gets murky. Did shipbuilders skimp on ventilation to save money, knowing it'd trap the stench and breed disease? It's the kind of question that makes you squint at the ship's design, wondering if profit trumped survival. Let's keep it real, my history nerds. You're down here surrounded by grumbling sailors and the tub's your only option. Here's a, did you know to screenshot those buckets was sometimes tied to the deck to stop them tipping, but spills still happened? Imagine explaining this to your friends. Yo, sailors shared a poop bucket and thought carvings made it lucky they'd be flawed. And here's a quotable for your group chat. The necessary tub wasn't just a bucket, it was a test of endurance. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a debate, right? So what's it like down here choking on that stench? Close your eyes. Feel the ship sway, hear the creaks. You're in the thick of it. Now, let's dig into that near conspiracy angle. Ventilation below deck was awful, everyone knew it. The air was so thick you could chew it and diseases spread like wildfire. So why didn't shipbuilders add more air vents? Cost sure, but what if it was deliberate? A way to keep crews miserable and obedient. There's no smoking gun, but the thought festers like the damp in the hold. Historians don't dwell on it, but sailors' journals hint at resentment, at whispers of corners cut to line someone's pockets. You're down here coughing in the dark, and you can't help but wonder who's to blame. Speaking of blame, let's talk community, my sleepless scholars. You're not alone in this grim corner of history. Picture telling your crew about those carved buckets. Guys, they thought doodles kept the bad vibes away. It's absurd, but it's real. Here's another. Did you know some sailors named their buckets like they were pets? Wild, right? And here's a modern parallel to keep it relatable. It's like being stuck in a packed subway car with one overflowing trash can. You'd survive, but you'd hate every second. Back then, though, this was just Tuesday. Let's lean into the suspense. You're squatting by the tub, the lantern flickering, and you hear a groan. Not the ship, but a sailor nearby sick from the stench, or worse. Disease was a constant threat, and these tubs were breeding grounds. Here's a line to share. Below deck, the bucket wasn't just gross, it was deadly. And if you thought rats on the head were bad, wait till you hear about the captain's setup. Spoiler, they weren't slumming it like you. Their seats of ease were a whole different game, and it's coming up next. Makes you wonder what else they kept from the crew, right? But don't drift off yet, history crew. You're still below deck. The air heavy, the bucket's carvings staring back like a challenge. Those designs weren't just art, they were defiance, a way to say, I'm still here. Here's another. Did you know some carvings were so detailed, they're now in maritime museums? It's almost beautiful in a gritty way. So tell me, in the comments, would you carve your bucket or just get it over with? Let's keep this vibe rolling, ready for the next dive. You're climbing out of the stifling hold, the stench of the necessary tub still clinging to your clothes. Down there, you shared a carved-up bucket with the crew, but up on deck, you catch a glimpse of the captain's cabin, and it's a different world. While you're risking life and limb at the head or gagging below deck, the captain's got his own private seat of ease, a fancy term for a personal potty. In the 1700s, these were wooden chairs, with a hole often tucked in the captain's quarters, far from the crew's misery. And get this, some of these seats were lined with velvet, like a throne for their backsides. You're out here dodging rats while the captain's sitting pretty, and it's hard not to feel a spark of resentment. The sensory contrast hits hard. You step near the cabin, and the faint scent of polished wood and wax drifts out, a cruel tease against the crew's grime and sweat. It's not just luxury, it's a reminder of the divide. You're wiping salt from your eyes, your hands rough as sandpaper, while the captain's got a cushioned seat. Historians debate whether this privilege stoked crew tensions, maybe even planted seeds for mutiny. After all, why should one man get comfort while you're squatting over a plank? But here's the real kicker, with these lavish seats, a secret perk for ship investors, a way to sweeten deals for the elite. It's the kind of whisper that makes you side-eye the captain's closed door. Let's vibe with this, my history nerds. You're on deck stealing glances at that cabin, and the unfairness stings. Here's a, did you know to screenshot some seats of ease, had lids carved with the captain's initials, like a monogrammed toilet. Imagine telling your friends, yo captains, had velvet thrones, while sailors used buckets. They'd lose it. And here's a quotable for your group chat. On a ship, comfort was power, and the captain had it all. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a debate, right? So what's it like knowing the boss gets all the perks? Close your eyes, feel the deck sway, hear the cabin door creak. You're living it. Now let's lean into that near conspiracy angle. These seats weren't just about comfort, they were a flex, a way to show who was in charge. But what if they were also a bribe? Shipbuilding was big business, and investors wanted their cut. A plush seat for the captain might have sealed a deal while the crew got nothing. There's no hard proof, but the math adds up. Why else waste velvet on a ship? You're out here windburned and sore, and you can't help but wonder who really profited from your misery. It's a question that lingers, like the tang of salt in the air. Speaking of salt, let's keep the community tight, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew unraveling history's gritty truths. Picture explaining this to your buddies. Guys, the captain had a velvet toilet while we were out here suffering. It's absurd, but it's real. Here's another. Did you know some captains kept their seats locked to stop jealous sailors from sneaking a sit? And here's a modern parallel. It's like your boss getting a private bathroom while you're stuck with a broken office stall. Back then, though, this was life or death. Let's crank up the suspense. You're on deck, the captain's cabin, glowing faintly, and you hear a sailor mutter about fairness. The tension's thick. Could this spark trouble? Here's a line to share. The captain's throne wasn't just fancy, it was a slap in the face. And if you thought velvet seats were wild, wait till you hear about the ropes. Oh yeah, sailors tied themselves to the head to stay alive, and it's as intense as it sounds. It's coming up next, and it's going to blow your mind. So tell me in the comments, would you sneak into the captain's seat or stick to the plank? Let's keep this journey rolling. You're back at the head, the captain's velvet throne, a bitter memory as you face the wind-whipped bow. The plank's still there, creaking over the churning sea, but now you've got a new trick to survive a rope. In the 1700s, sailors like you tied coarse ropes around their waists at the head to keep from falling into the abyss. It's not a safety harness, it's a lifeline, rough enough to burn your skin. And here's the bizarre twist, some of these ropes were dyed red, supposedly, to hide blood from rope burns or worse. You're out here knotting this frayed cord around yourself, praying it holds, while the waves roar like they're hungry. The sensory hit is raw. The coarse rope digs into your waist, chafing with every sway of the ship. The ocean spray stings your face, and the planks slick underfoot, threatening to buck you off. It's not just fear, it's a full-body test. Imagine bungee jumping, just to use a gas station restroom. That's the energy. You're gripping the rope, heart hammering, wondering if it's strong enough. And then there's the mystery: did officers ever sabotage these ropes to punish troublemakers? Historians don't have logs proving it, but sailors' tales hint at accidents that felt too convenient. You're out here, the rope your only friend, and you can't shake the thought that someone might want you gone. Let's keep it lit, my history nerds. You're balancing on that plank rope, rubbing your skin raw, and it's a story you'd tell for years. Here's a, did you know to screenshot some sailors double knotted their ropes, believing it pleased the sea gods? Picture telling your friends, yo, sailors tied themselves to a plank to poop. They'd be shook. And here's a quotable for your group chat. The rope was your savior until it wasn't. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a reaction, right? So what's it like dangling over the sea? Close your eyes, feel the rope bite, hear the waves crash. You're in it. Now let's dive into that near conspiracy vibe. Ropes were cheap, but trust wasn't. A cut rope, a loose knot, nobody's checking in a storm. If an officer wanted to silence a loudmouth, the head was the perfect spot. No proof, just whispers in the dark. But you're out here, the rope creaking, and you're not so sure it's secure. Here's another. Did you know some ships had rope monitors to check for tampering? But they were often bribed. It's the kind of detail that makes you wonder what else went unreported, like shadows moving in the fog. Speaking of shadows, let's keep the community tight, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew piecing together history's wildest corners. Imagine explaining this to your buddies. Guys, they use bloody ropes to stay alive on the toilet. It's grim, but it's real. Here's a modern parallel. It's like tying yourself to a chair, to use a sketchy festival porta potty. And here's another. Did you know red dye was rare, so those ropes were a status symbol, even in misery? Back then, every detail mattered. Let's amp up the suspense. You're tied to the head, the rope groaning, and a gust hits, rocking the ship. Your stomach drops. Will the knot hold? Here's a line to share. The rope was your lifeline, but trust was the real gamble. And if you thought ropes were intense, wait till you hear about disease. Below deck, those buckets weren't just gross, they were deadly, and it's coming up next. So tell me in the comments, would you trust the rope or skip the head entirely? Let's keep this vibe rolling. You're back below deck. The rope burns from the head, still stinging as you duck into the humid dark. The necessary tub's sour stench greets you. But now there's a bigger threat: disease. In the 1700s, poor hygiene on long voyages turned ships into floating petri dishes, with dysentery and typhus wiping out entire crews. Those sloshing buckets weren't just gross, they were deadly, spreading germs in the cramped hold. And here's the weird twist. Sailors tried to fight the stink with vinegar, splashing it into the tubs as a makeshift disinfectant. You're down here pouring sour vinegar into the bucket, hoping it keeps the sickness at bay, but the air's so thick, it's hard to breathe. The sensory hit is suffocating. The damp air clings to your skin, heavy with the reek of waste and vinegar's sharp bite. The ship's timbers creak, and every cough from a sailor nearby feels like a warning. It's not just discomfort, it's dread. Historians argue whether captains ignored hygiene to meet tight trade deadlines, letting crews suffer to keep investors happy. But here's the real question. Were those outbreaks hushed up to protect profitable trade routes? You're wiping sweat from your brow, the bucket's fumes burning your eyes, and you can't help but wonder if the higher-ups knew more than they let on. Let's keep the fire going. My history nerds, you're in the hold, vinegar in hand, and the fear of disease is real. Here's a did you know to screenshot. Vinegar was so precious. Sailors sometimes drank it to cleanse their insides. Imagine telling your friends, yo, sailors used vinegar to fight poop bucket plagues. They'd be stunned. And here's a quotable for your group chat. The bucket didn't just stink, it spread death. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a debate, right? So, what's it like choking on that air? Close your eyes. Feel the damp, hear the coughs. You're there. Now let's lean into that near conspiracy angle. Dysentery wasn't just bad luck, it was a pattern. Ships kept sailing even when crews were dropping. Why trade routes were gold and sick sailors were replaceable. Some journals hint at captains downplaying outbreaks to avoid quarantine delays. You're down here, the bucket's stench a constant threat, and you're wondering if the logbooks told the whole truth. Here's another. Did you know some ships carried plague flags but rarely flew them, risking entire ports? It's the kind of secret that makes you question who was really in charge. Speaking of secrets, let's keep the community vibe strong, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew digging into history's darkest corners. Picture explaining this to your buddies. Guys, they thought vinegar could stop a shipboard plague. It's wild, but it's real. Here's a modern parallel. It's like using hand sanitizer to fend off a flu outbreak in a packed office. And here's another. Did you know vinegar shortages sparked fights below deck, like a bar brawl over the last beer? Back then, survival was a grind. Let's crank up the suspense. You're splashing vinegar, but a sailor nearby collapses. Face, pale eyes, glassy. Is it dysentery? Something worse. Here's a line to share. Below deck, hygiene wasn't just hard, it was a fight for survival. And if you thought disease was bad, wait till you hear about superstitions. Sailors had wild beliefs about the head, and it's coming up next. So tell me in the comments, would you trust the vinegar or pray for a miracle? Let's keep this journey rolling. You're back on deck, the vinegar's sting still in your nose from below, But now you're at the head again, staring down at the churning sea. The plank's as treacherous as ever, but there's another layer to this superstition. In the 1700s, sailors like you followed strict rituals at the head to avoid angering the sea. Peeing off the wrong side could curse the ship, or so they believed. And get this, some swore urinating starboard brought good winds like a magic trick for the weather. You're out here aiming carefully, muttering a half-forgotten chant, wondering if the sea's really listening or if you're just losing it. The sensory hit is eerie. The moon's glow on the waves feels alive, like the ocean's watching your every move. The wind howls, carrying the salt spray that stings your lips, and the plank creaks like a warning. It's not just a bathroom break, it's a ritual. Imagine avoiding cracks in the sidewalk to dodge bad luck. That's the vibe. But here's the mystery. Did priests secretly promote these rituals to keep crews in line, weaving fear into faith? Historians don't have proof, but the church had sway at sea, and you're wondering if those chants came from above deck or higher up. Let's keep the energy high, my history nerds. You're at the head, whispering to the sea, and it's a story you'd never forget. Here's a did you know to screenshot some sailors, carved wave symbols on the plank to appease the ocean. Picture telling your friends, yo sailors peed starboard to control the wind, they'd be floored. And here's a quotable for your group chat. The sea demanded respect and sailors paid in rituals. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a laugh, right? So, what's it like chanting to the waves? Close your eyes. Feel the moon's gaze, hear the sea's roar. You're in it. Now, let's dive into that near conspiracy angle. Superstitions weren't just quirks, they were control. A crew that feared the sea's wrath was less likely to question orders. What if priests, or even officers, leaned into these beliefs to keep you obedient? No hard evidence, but sailors' journals mention holy men blessing the head. You're out here, the plank swaying, and you can't shake the feeling you're being watched not just by the sea. Here's another. Did you know some ships had lucky planks replaced only after a storm-free voyage? It's the kind of detail that makes you wonder who was pulling the strings. Speaking of strings, let's keep the community tight, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew unraveling history's weirdest quirks. Imagine explaining this to your buddies. Guys, they thought peeing wrong cursed the ship. It's absurd, but it's real. Here's a modern parallel. It's like avoiding a cursed parking spot because it feels off. And here's another. Did you know sailors who broke rituals were shunned like they doomed the crew? Back then, belief was everything. Let's ramp up the suspense. You're at the head, the chant on your lips, but a gust rocks the ship and the plank shudders. Did you get the ritual wrong? Here's a line to share at the head. You didn't just pee, you bargained with the sea. And if you thought superstitions were wild, wait till you hear about women aboard. They snuck onto ships, and their hygiene tricks were next level. It's coming up next, and it's going to blow your mind. So tell me, in the comments, would you follow the ritual or risk the curse? Let's keep this vibe rolling. You're slipping back into the shadows of the ship, the sea's eerie glow fading as you move below deck. The superstitions at the head still linger, but now you're noticing someone different among the crew. A sailor who moves a bit too carefully, voice a touch too soft. In the 1700s, women sometimes disguised themselves as men to serve on ships facing the same brutal hygiene challenges as you, but with extra layers of secrecy. And here's the wild detail, some used hollowed-out corks as makeshift funnels to pee standing up, keeping their cover intact. You're watching this sailor slip toward the head, and you're starting to suspect they're hiding more than just nerves. The sensory hit is tense. The scratchy disguise itches against your skin or theirs as you crouch in the flickering lantern light, the ship's creaks masking hurried movements. The air's thick with sweat and secrecy, and every shadow feels like a threat. Historians debate how many women pulled this off, with estimates ranging from dozens to hundreds across decades. But here's the mystery. Did captains turn a blind eye to these women, knowing their presence boosted crew morale? You're in the hold, catching a glimpse of that cork device, and you can't help but wonder if the officers knew more than they logged. Let's keep the vibe alive, my history nerds. You're spotting clues, piecing together a secret that could change everything. Here's a Did you notice screenshots some women bound their chests with sailcloth to stay hidden? Picture telling your friends, yo, women snuck onto ships with cork funnels. They'd be stunned. And here's a quotable for your group chat. The ship hid secrets and some wore disguises. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a debate, right? So what's it like guarding that secret? Close your eyes. Feel the disguise itch. Hear the whispers. You're in it. Now let's lean into that near conspiracy angle. A woman aboard was a scandal, but a productive sailor was gold. If a captain suspected and let it slide, was it kindness or strategy? Some logs mention oddly skilled crew members never named. You're watching this sailor, their movements practiced, and you're wondering if the captain's silence was a calculated move. Here's another. Did you know women who were caught sometimes faced lighter punishments than expected, like they had leverage? It's the kind of detail that makes you question the chain of command. Speaking of command, let's keep the community tight, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew digging into history's hidden stories. Imagine explaining this to your buddies. Guys, women used corks to pass as sailors. It's wild, but it's real. Here's a modern parallel. It's like sneaking into an all-guys club with a fake beard and a plan. And here's another. Did you know some women served for years, their true identities only revealed after death? Back then, survival took grit. Let's crank up the suspense. You're below deck, and that sailor slips past cork hidden in their pocket. A wrong glance could blow their cover or yours for noticing. Here's a line to share. On a ship, secrets were as dangerous as storms. And if you thought disguises were intense, wait till you hear about the surgeon. His treatments for hygiene woes were brutal, and it's coming up next. So tell me in the comments, would you keep their secret or report it? Let's keep this journey rolling. You're still reeling from that secret sailor, their cork funnel, a testament to survival. But now you're limping toward the ship's surgeon, a hygiene-related infection burning your leg. In the 1700s, ship surgeons were the go-to for ailments tied to the head or necessary tubs, but their methods were grim, think saws and stitches, not bandages. And here's the bizarre twist: some surgeons used rum to clean wounds, pouring it over cuts like a pirate's toast. You're lying on a swaying table, the surgeon's rusty tools glinting in the lantern light, praying he doesn't reach for the amputation saw. The sensory hit is chilling. The surgeon's table is sticky with old blood, and the rum's sharp sting makes you hiss as it hits your wound. The ship's roll adds nausea to the pain, and every clink of metal sounds like a threat. It's not just treatment, it's terror. Imagine a dentist appointment with no anesthesia, that's the vibe. But here's the mystery. Were surgeons paid to experiment on sick sailors, testing brutal cures for profit? Historians don't have receipts, but the era's medical trials raise eyebrows. You're clenching your fists, the rum burning, and you can't shake the feeling you're a guinea pig. Let's keep it real, my history nerds. You're on that table praying for survival, and it's a story you'd never forget. Here's a did you know? To screenshot some surgeons kept wound logs that read like horror novels. Picture telling your friends, yo, ship doctors used rum as antiseptic. They'd be shook. And here's a quotable for your group chat. The surgeon's cure was often worse than the disease. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a reaction. Right? So what's it like facing that sore? Close your eyes. Feel the rum burn, hear the tools clink. You're there. Now let's dive into that near conspiracy angle. Medicine at sea was a gamble, and surgeons weren't always trained. Some were ex-barbers cutting more than hair. If a merchant funded the voyage, who's to say they didn't slip the surgeon a bonus to test new remedies? You're on the table, the surgeon muttering about progress, and you're wondering if your pain's funding someone's mansion. Here's another. Did you know rum was so common, some sailors begged for a swig before the knife? It's the kind of detail that makes you question the whole system. Speaking of systems, let's keep the community tight, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew piecing together history's brutal truths. Imagine explaining this to your buddies. Guys, they poured rum on wounds like it was water. It's grim, but it's real. Here's a modern parallel. It's like trusting a sketchy urgent care with no Yelp reviews. And here's another. Did you know surgeons sometimes reused bandages, spreading infections they meant to cure? Back then, survival was a coin toss. Let's amp up the suspense. The surgeon's leaning in his blade, catching the light, and a sailor's scream echoes from the hold. Is it infection or the saw? Here's a line to share. The surgeon's table was where hope went to die. And if you thought rum cures were bad, wait till you hear about the food. Rotten meat and rancid water made hygiene worse, and it's coming up next. So tell me in the comments, would you trust the surgeon or tough it out? Let's keep this vibe rolling. You're staggering away from the surgeon's table, the rum's sting fading, but your legs still throbbing. Below deck, you grab your ration hoping for relief, but the food's a new kind of horror. In the 1700s, poor diet worsened hygiene issues, fueling scurvy and infections that made the head and tubs even deadlier. Your biscuits hard as stone, crawling with weevils, but sailors like you ate them anyway, joking they were extra protein. You're crunching down the gritty weevils, sticking in your teeth, trying to ignore the rancid water in your cup, and the way it makes your stomach churn. The sensory hit is vile. The biscuit's stale dust coats your tongue, and the weevil's faint wriggle makes your skin crawl. The water smells like a swamp, and the hold's damp air only makes it worse. It's not just hunger, it's survival. Historians argue whether malnutrition was a deliberate cost-saving tactic, with cheap rations boosting profits at your expense. But here's the mystery. Did suppliers knowingly sell tainted food, pocketing the difference while crews starved? You're choking down this meal, your gums bleeding from scurvy, and you can't help but wonder who's getting rich off your misery. Let's keep the fire burning, my history nerds. You're in the hold, eating weevil biscuits, and it's a story you'd tell to haunt your kids. Here's a did you know to screenshot sailors tapped biscuits on the table to shake out the weevils before eating. Picture telling your friends, yo, sailors ate bug-infested food to survive. They'd be grossed out. And here's a quotable for your group chat. The food wasn't just bad, it was a betrayal. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a reaction. Right. So what's it like crunching those weevils? Close your eyes. Feel the grit. Hear the tap-tap. You're there. Now let's lean into that near-conspiracy angle. Rations were contracted by merchants and spoiled food was common. Why it was cheaper to ship garbage than quality. Some sailors swore suppliers mixed sawdust into flour, stretching profits while you starved. No hard proof, but the patterned suspicious ports thrived while crews withered. You're chewing this biscuit, your stomach twisting, and you're wondering if the logbooks hid the truth. Here's another. Did you know scurvy killed more sailors than storms, but captains rarely logged it as malnutrition? It's the kind of secret that makes you question the whole trade. Speaking of trade, let's keep the community tight, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew digging into history's gritty truths. Imagine explaining this to your buddies. Guys, they ate weevils and called it protein. It's grim, but it's real. Here's a modern parallel. It's like eating expired cafeteria food because it's all you've got. And here's another. Did you know some sailors traded their rum ration for less buggy biscuits like a desperate barter? Back then, every bite was a gamble. Let's crank up the suspense. You're eating, but a storm's brewing topside and the ship's starting to rock. If you thought eating weevils was bad, try keeping it down in a gale. Here's a line to share. The food didn't just sicken you, it broke your spirit. And if you thought rations were rough, wait till you hear about storms. They turned hygiene into chaos and it's coming up next. So tell me in the comments, would you eat the weevils or starve? Let's keep this journey rolling. You're choking down that weevil-infested biscuit, the rancid water still sour on your tongue when the ship lurches violently. A storm's hit, and the deck's tilting like a drunkard's stumble. In the 1700s, storms made hygiene a nightmare. Using the head was suicide, and the necessary tubs below deck sloshed everywhere. Sailors like you had to improvise, and here's the wild part. Some used empty cannon barrels as emergency toilets, crouching over cold iron while the ship bucked. You're clinging to a beam rail, soaking your clothes, desperate to relieve yourself as the storm roars, wondering if the cannon's your only shot. The sensory hit is brutal. Freezing rain lashes your face, stinging like needles, and the ship's wild tilt makes every step a gamble. The cannon's metal chills your skin, and the air's thick with salt and panic. It's not just chaos, it's survival. Imagine a power outage during a bathroom emergency, but with waves trying to drown you. Historians don't know if navigators ignored storm warnings to meet schedules, but the thought lingers. Were you sent into this gale for profit? You're crouching over that barrel, the storm's howl deafening, and you can't shake the feeling someone's gambling with your life. Let's keep the vibe alive, my history nerds. You're in the storm cannon barrel and all, and it's a story you'd tell to scare your kids. Here's a, did you know to screenshot some sailors tied themselves to cannons to stay steady? Picture telling your friends, yo, they used cannons as toilets in storms, they'd be floored. And here's a quotable for your group chat. In a storm, even cannons became thrones. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a laugh, right? So, what's it like riding out the gale? Close your eyes. Feel the rain sting, hear the ship groan. You're in it. Now let's dive into that near conspiracy angle. Storms were predictable to a point, but logs show ships sailing into gales anyway. Why trade deadlines were king and delays cost fortunes? A navigator's mistake might have been a captain's order or an investor's nudge. You're shivering over that cannon, the deck slick, and you're wondering if the storm's chaos hides a bigger plan. Here's another. Did you know some ships carried extra barrels labeled supplies that were just for emergencies like this? It's the kind of detail that makes you question the logbooks. Speaking of secrets, let's keep the community tight, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew, piecing together history's wildest moments. Imagine explaining this to your buddies. Guys, they pooped in cannons during storms. It's absurd, but it's real. Here's a modern parallel. It's like using a trash can in a blackout because the bathroom's flooded. And here's another. Did you know storm-soaked sailors sometimes caught fevers from wet clothes, making hygiene even worse? Back then, every wave was a threat. Let's crank up the suspense. The storm's raging, and you're over the cannon, but a massive wave slams the ship, nearly knocking you off. Is this barrel worth it? Here's a line to share. In a storm, hygiene wasn't a choice. It was a dare. And if you thought storms were bad, wait till you hear about mutiny. Hygiene sparked rebellions, and it's coming up next. So tell me in the comments, would you use the cannon or hold it till the storm passes? Let's keep this journey rolling. The storm's finally fading, but your clothes are soaked and the cannon barrel ordeal's left you rattled. Below deck, the air's tense sailors are whispering, eyes darting. Hygiene's not just a chore now, it's a spark for rebellion. In the 1700s, poor conditions like sloshing tubs and filthy water fueled mutinies, with crews turning on captains over basic needs. And here's the wild twist: one mutiny kicked off when a sailor's prized necessary tub was stolen, a carved bucket he'd guarded like treasure. You're in the hold, hearing angry murmurs, gripping your own tub, wondering if this is the night it all explodes. The sensory hit is electric. Angry whispers echo in the dark, sharp with resentment, and the hold's damp stench fuels the rage. Your hands clutch the bucket's rough edge, its carvings digging into your palms. It's not just tension, it's a powder keg. Historians debate whether these mutinies were about hygiene or deeper grudges like unpaid wages or brutal discipline. But here's the mystery. Were some mutinies staged to sabotage rival trade companies, with whispers planted by spies? You're listening to the crew's plans, heart pounding, and you can't shake the feeling there's a bigger game at play. Let's keep the fire burning, my history nerds. You're in the hold, rebellion brewing, and it's a story you'd tell to stun a crowd. Here's a, did you know to screenshot some mutineers used tubs as weapons, swinging them at officers? Picture telling your friends, yo, a stolen bucket started a shipboard riot. They'd be shook. And here's a quotable for your group chat. A bucket wasn't just hygiene, it was a battle cry. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a debate, right? So what's it like feeling the mutiny rise? Close your eyes. Feel the tension, hear the whispers. You're there. Now let's lean into that near conspiracy angle. Mutinies were messy, but some seemed too convenient. Rival companies lost ships, and mutineers sometimes walked free. What if agents slipped aboard, sowing discord over things like stolen tubs? No hard proof, but sailors' tales mention outsiders stirring trouble. You're in the dark. The crew's anger like a storm, and you're wondering if someone's pulling strings. Here's another. Did you know some mutineers carved rebellion symbols into tubs like secret codes? It's the kind of detail that makes you question the official story. Speaking of stories, let's keep the community tight, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew unraveling history's rebellions. Imagine explaining this to your buddies. Guys, a bucket theft sparked a mutiny. It's wild, but it's real. Here's a modern parallel. It's like a workplace revolt over a broken coffee machine, but with higher stakes. And here's another. Did you know mutinies over hygiene led to better ship rules, but only decades later? Back then, rage was your only voice. Let's amp up the suspense. The whispers grow louder, and a sailor stands pointing at the captain's cabin. Is this it? Here's a line to share. Hygiene didn't just test you, it pushed you to rebel. And if you thought mutiny was intense, wait till you hear about ports. Land didn't mean relief, it brought new problems, and it's coming up next. So tell me in the comments, would you join the mutiny or stay loyal? Let's keep this vibe rolling. The mutiny's whispers fade as the ship limps toward port, the horizon promising relief. But land's no savior. In the 1700s, ports were often filthier than ships with overflowing privies, spreading disease back to the crew. You're stepping onto the dock boots, sinking into mud, hoping for a proper bathroom, only to find a row of reeking outhouses. And here's the wild twist: some sailors paid for luxury outhouses, slightly cleaner buckets with a curtain for privacy. You're handing over a coin, the dock's stench clogging your throat, wondering if this is worth your last penny. The sensory hit is grim. The dock's muddy stench mixes with rotting fish and human waste heavy in the humid air. The outhouse's flimsy curtain flaps, offering no real shield, and the bucket's slosh makes your stomach turn. It's not relief, it's a new kind of misery. Imagine the worst festival porta potty, but you're paying for it. Historians don't know if port officials profited from these filthy setups, but the thought festers. Were you being fleeced while disease spread? You're in that outhouse, the air choking you, and you can't shake the feeling someone's getting rich off this mess. Let's keep the vibe gentle, my history nerds. You're on the dock chasing a moment of peace, and it's a story you'd tell with a grimace. Here's a did you know to screenshot. Some ports had outhouse guards to stop theft of the buckets. Picture telling your friends, yo, sailors paid for fancy poop buckets in port. They'd laugh. And here's a quotable for your group chat. Ports promised relief but delivered disease. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a reaction, right? So what's it like facing that stench? Close your eyes. Feel the mud, hear the flies. You're there. Now, let's lean into that near conspiracy angle. Ports were chaotic, but organized enough to charge for outhouses. Why were they so filthy then? Officials had the power to clean up, yet disease thrived. Some sailors swore the fees funded officials' pockets, not sanitation. You're handing over your coin, the buckets reek overwhelming, and you're wondering if the system's rigged. Here's another. Did you know port fevers sometimes killed more sailors than sea voyages? It's the kind of detail that makes you question who ran the docks. Speaking of docks, let's keep the community tight, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew digging into history's dirty truths. Imagine explaining this to your buddies. Guys, they paid for gross outhouses that made them sick. It's grim, but it's real. Here's a modern parallel. It's like paying for a VIP porta potty that's just as bad as the free one. And here's another. Did you know some sailors smuggled ship buckets ashore to avoid port fees? Back then, every coin counted. Let's ease into the suspense. You're in the outhouse, but a cough from the next stall sounds too familiar. Disease is here too. Is port really safer? Here's a line to share. Land wasn't freedom, it was a new trap. And if you thought ports were bad, wait till you hear about Navy versus pirates. Their hygiene battles were wild, and it's coming up next. So tell me in the comments, would you pay for the luxury bucket or stick to the ship? Let's keep this journey rolling. You're back on the ship, the port's muddy stench still in your nose, but now you're noticing differences between your Navy vessel and the pirate ships you've heard about. In the 1700s, Navy ships like yours had stricter hygiene rules, regular bucket cleanings, head inspections, while pirates were infamously lax. And here's the wild twist: pirates sometimes used captured soap as gambling chips, betting bars of it in dice games. You're scrubbing with a rag, the faint lavender scent of stolen soap in the air, wondering if pirates had it better or worse than you. The sensory hit is sharp. The lavender teases your senses, a rare break from the ship's grime, but the deck's still slick with salt and sweat. The soap's slippery in your hands, a prize you'd guard fiercely. It's not just cleanliness, it's status. Historians debate whether pirates' loose hygiene shortened their careers, with disease hitting harder on their chaotic ships. But here's the mystery: did navies exaggerate pirate filth to justify hunting them down, painting them as savages? You're washing up the soap's scent, fading, and you can't shake the thought that the truth's been scrubbed clean. Let's keep the vibe smooth, my history nerds. You're on deck, soap in hand, and it's a story you'd tell with a grin. Here's a did you know to screenshot: pirate ships sometimes had soap stashes hidden in the hold. Picture telling your friends, yo, pirates gambled with soap like it was gold. They'd be stunned. And here's a quotable for your group chat: soap wasn't just clean, it was currency. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a laugh, right? So what's it like holding that rare bar? Close your eyes. Feel the slip. Hear the dice roll. You're there. Now let's lean into that near conspiracy angle. Navy reports called pirates filthy, but some captured pirates were healthier than Navy crews. Was it propaganda to make hunts seem noble? Navies needed victories to secure funding, and a dirty enemy was an easy sell. You're scrubbing the soap's scent, a fleeting luxury, and you're wondering if the stories were true. Here's another. Did you know some pirates traded soap for rum, prioritizing party over hygiene? It's the kind of detail that makes you question the Navy's tales. Speaking of tales, let's keep the community tight, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew unraveling history's rivalries. Imagine explaining this to your buddies. Guys, pirates bet soap in dice games. It's wild, but it's real. Here's a modern parallel. It's like trading hand sanitizer for beer at a sketchy party. And here's another. Did you know Navy sailors caught using pirate soap-faced lashes like it was contraband? Back then, cleanliness had rules. Let's ease into the suspense. You're washing, but a shout rings out: a pirate ship spotted. Will their hygiene be your downfall? Here's a line to share. Navy or pirate soap was the real treasure. And if you thought soap was rare, wait till you hear about the quest for it. Sailors chase this luxury, and it's coming up next. So, tell me in the comments, would you join the Navy or roll with pirates? Let's keep this journey rolling. You're clutching that precious bar of soap, its lavender scent, a fading memory as you stow it carefully. Soap was a rare treasure in the 1700s, often reserved for officers leaving sailors like you scrambling for scraps. And here's the wild twist: some of you made soap from fish oil and ashes, stirring a greasy mess over a fire. You're at the ship's small hearth, the fish oil burning your hands as you mix, hoping this batch cleans better than it smells, dreaming of a proper wash. The sensory hit is gritty. The fish oil's slippery heat stings your skin, and the ash's acrid smoke makes your eyes water. The ship's sway rocks the pot, and the faint promise of cleanliness keeps you stirring. It's not just effort, it's hope. Imagine fighting for the last hand sanitizer in a store. That's the vibe. Historians don't know if soap scarcity was a deliberate class divider, but the thought lingers. Why was it so hard to get? You're stirring the oil, bubbling, and you can't shake the feeling the system's stacked against you. Let's keep the vibes soft, my history nerds. You're crafting soap, chasing a cleaner life, and it's a story you'd tell with pride. Here's a did you know to screenshot: fish oil soap was so harsh it sometimes peeled skin. Picture telling your friends, yo, sailors made soap from fish guts, they'd be grossed out. And here's a quotable for your group chat. Soap wasn't given, it was earned. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a reaction, right? So what's it like stirring that pot? Close your eyes. Feel the burn, hear the bubble. You're there. Now let's lean into that near conspiracy angle. Soap was cheap to make, yet sailors begged for it. Officers had plenty while you boiled fish oil. Was it a power play keeping you dirty to remind you of your place? Some journals hint at crews demanding soap only to be ignored. You're stirring the smoke stinging, and you're wondering if cleanliness was another privilege hoarded above deck. Here's another. Did you know some ships traded soap for loyalty, rewarding snitches with bars? It's the kind of detail that makes you question the hierarchy. Speaking of hierarchy, let's keep the community tight, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew digging into history's struggles. Imagine explaining this to your buddies. Guys, they boiled fish for soap. It's grim, but it's real. Here's a modern parallel. It's like DIYing sanitizer during a shortage, but smellier. And here's another. Did you know fish oil soap was traded like currency among sailors? Back then, cleanliness was a fight. Let's ease into the suspense. You're stirring, but a sailor eyes your pot, desperate for a share. Will this soap spark a brawl? Here's a line to share. Soap wasn't just hygiene, it was survival. And if you thought making soap was tough, wait till you hear about dreams. Sailors longed for cleanliness, and it's coming up next. So tell me in the comments, would you make the soap or beg an officer? Let's keep this journey rolling. You're tucking away your hard-earned fish oil soap, its greasy scent lingering as you settle into your hammock. The ship's rhythm is softer now, rocking you towards sleep, and your mind drifts to dreams of cleanliness. In the 1700s, sailors' journals reveal a deep longing for better hygiene, with some imagining mythical freshwater springs where they'd bathe forever. And here's the wild twist: some dreamed of golden pools guarded by sea spirits, their journals scribbled with feverish sketches. You're swaying in the hammock, eyes heavy, picturing warm water washing away the grime, a fantasy that feels almost real. The sensory hit is soothing. Imagined warm water soothes your aching muscles, and the hammock's gentle sway feels like a cradle. The ship's creaks blend with your dream, the air soft with salt and hope. It's not just rest, it's escape. Historians debate whether these dreams showed mental strain, a sign of minds breaking under the sea's grind. But here's the mystery: did officers censor journals to hide this despair, keeping crew's misery out of the records? You're drifting, the spring's glow calling, and you can't shake the thought that your dreams were silenced. Let's keep the vibe dreamy, my history nerds. You're in that hammock chasing a clean world, and it's a story you'd whisper to a friend. Here's a, did you know to screenshot some sailors drew springs in journals like maps to paradise? Picture telling your friends, yo, sailors dreamed of magic baths. They'd be charmed. And here's a quotable for your group chat. Dreams were the only place they were clean. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a sigh, right? So what's it like dreaming of springs? Close your eyes. Feel the warmth, hear the trickle. You're there. Now let's lean into that near conspiracy angle. Journals were checked, sometimes burned if they demoralized the crew. A sailor dreaming of escape might have seemed dangerous. Were these visions buried to keep you focused on the grind? You're half asleep, the spring's glow fading, and you're wondering if your thoughts were ever truly yours. Here's another. Did you know some journals were smuggled ashore, preserving dreams officers tried to erase? It's the kind of detail that makes you question the ship's control. Speaking of control, let's keep the community tight, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew drifting through history's hopes. Imagine explaining this to your buddies, guys. They dreamed of fairy tale springs. It's soft, but it's real. Here's a modern parallel. It's like fantasizing about a spa day during a grueling work week. And here's another. Did you know some sailors swore their dreams predicted land like a psychic bath? Back then, dreams were a lifeline. Let's ease into the calm. You're dreaming the spring's warmth wrapping you, but the ship's creak pulls you back. Is cleanliness just a fantasy? Here's a line to share. In dreams, the sea gave what it stole. And if you thought dreams were poignant, wait till you hear about laws. Hygiene-shaped maritime rules, and it's coming up next. So tell me in the comments, what's your dream escape? Let's keep this journey rolling. You're stirring from that dream of golden springs, the hammock sway pulling you back to the ship's reality. But something's shifting. Hygiene isn't just a struggle now, it's changing the rules. By the 1800s, the misery of sailors like you pushed maritime laws to mandate better sanitation, like regular bucket cleanings and water rations. And here's the wild twist. Some laws required bucket inspections to ensure cleanliness, with officers sniffing tubs like grim judges. You're watching an officer check your tub, the sea's endless rhythm calming your nerves, wondering if these rules will actually save you. The sensory hit is steady. The sea's gentle lullaby wraps you in warmth, and the tub's faint vinegar scent feels cleaner than before. The deck's polished, now reflecting the moon's soft glow. It's not just order, it's progress. Imagine OSHA rules for your office bathroom, but with higher stakes. Historians don't know if these laws were passed to placate angry crews, but the timing's suspicious. Were you finally heard? You're standing by the tub, the air lighter, and you can't shake the thought that change came from your suffering. Let's keep the vibe serene, my history nerds. You're seeing change a cleaner ship, and it's a story you'd tell with hope. Here's a did you know to screenshot some laws, find captains for dirty ships, a rare win for crews. Picture telling your friends, yo, they sniffed buckets to save sailors. They'd laugh. And here's a quotable for your group chat. Hygiene didn't just clean ships, it changed history. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a nod, right? So what's it like seeing progress? Close your eyes. Feel the calm, hear the waves. You're there. Now let's lean into that near conspiracy angle. Laws don't pass without pressure, and crews were restless mutinies proved it. Were these rules a genuine fix, or a way to quiet you before more rebellions flared? Some sailors swore officers dragged their feet enforcing laws only when docked. You're watching the inspection, the officer's nose wrinkling, and you're wondering if this is real reform or a show. Here's another. Did you know early laws were ignored on long voyages, leaving crews in the same filth? It's the kind of detail that makes you question the system's heart. Speaking of heart, let's keep the community tight, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew witnessing history's slow turn. Imagine explaining this to your buddies. Guys' bucket checks saved sailors' lives. It's odd, but it's real. Here's a modern parallel. It's like new workplace rules after a staff walkout. And here's another. Did you know some crews celebrated clean tubs, like a holiday with extra rum? Back then, progress was rare. Let's ease into the calm. The inspection's done, and the sea's rhythm soothes you, whispering of better days. Is this the future? Here's a line to share. Hygiene laws weren't just rules, they were hope. And if you thought laws were inspiring, wait till you drift to dreamland. The sea's lessons are eternal, and it's coming up next. So tell me in the comments, would you cheer for bucket checks or shrug? Let's keep this journey rolling. You're standing on deck, the bucket inspection fading into memory, the ship's gentle sway rocking you like a lullaby. The fight for hygiene has left its mark by the 19th century. Better sanitation extended sailors' lives, turning ships from death traps to homes. And here's the wild twist. Some sailors credited mermaids for teaching them cleanliness, swearing they saw sea spirits in dreams guiding them to wash. You're gazing at the waves, their foam glowing under the stars, feeling the sea's ancient wisdom wrap around you, a story that binds you to every sailor who ever sailed. The sensory hit is ethereal. The ocean's lullaby hums in your bones, its warm breath kissing your skin. The stars pulse softly, and the deck's smooth wood grounds you. It's not just peace, it's connection. Historians debate whether mermaid folklore inspired real hygiene reforms, with some saying myths carry truths science hadn't named. But here's the mystery. Did these tales hide scientific breakthroughs passed off as magic to reach superstitious crews? You're drifting, the waves' rhythm blurring with your heartbeat, and you can't shake the thought that the sea itself taught you to survive. Let's keep the vibe hypnotic, my history nerds. You're one with the waves, part of a timeless tale. Here's a did you know to screenshot some sailors carved mermaid charms to bless their tubs. Picture telling your friends, yo, mermaids taught sailors to wash. They'd be enchanted. And here's a quotable for your group chat. The sea didn't just challenge you, it taught you. It's the kind of fact you'd share to spark a dream. Right. So what's it like, merging with the sea? Close your eyes. Feel the waves, hear the stars. You're there. Now let's lean into that near conspiracy angle. Myths like mermaids often hid practical truths. Clean water saved lives. but sailors trusted stories over orders. Were these tales crafted to spread hygiene without crediting science? You're swaying the sea's glow calling, and you're wondering if mermaids were the real reformers. Here's another. Did you know some ships held mermaid rituals before cleaning tubs, blending faith and function? It's the kind of detail that makes you question where wisdom began. Speaking of wisdom, let's keep the community tight, my sleepless scholars. You're part of this crew sailing through history's dreams. Imagine explaining this to your buddies. Guys, mermaids might have saved sailors. It's magical, but it's real. Here's a modern parallel. It's like a viral TikTok spreading health tips through a fairy tale. And here's another. Did you know mermaid myths lingered in Navy logs even in the 1800s? Back then, the sea spoke. The waves carry you now, their rhythm a soft pulse, like a mother's heartbeat. You're no longer just a sailor. You're part of the sea's endless story, joined with every soul who faced the head, the tub, the storm. The stars above whisper of resilience of humans who turned filth into laws, fear into dreams. Your struggles, your dreams of springs, your carved buckets, they ripple through time, linking you to sailors yet to come. The sea doesn't judge. It cradles its warm embrace, erasing the grime of centuries. Picture a shore where all sailors meet their stories, blending in the foam. The mermaid's song hums faintly, a reminder that survival is art, that hygiene was your quiet rebellion. What does it mean to be clean? Not just a body washed, but a spirit, lifted, a life reclaimed. The sea taught you this, its lessons carved in your bones. As you drift, the waves promise dreams of starlit springs of peace beyond the horizon. Let them carry you, my history nerds, to a sleep as deep as the ocean's heart. May your dreams sail forever.